where Zarazua got the win in 3 sets on the hard courts of an ITF event. So it's been a while since they've played, and of course Eala has gotten so much better since that time. Really fun matchup here. Should be a nice one for Eala to start with. I think Eala's going to get through in straight sets and get to that second round potentially against Serena.
She has 11 minutes before she has to walk through that tunnel, and she still hasn't looked at the draw sheet pinned to the locker room wall. Somebody else looked at it for her. Somebody else saw the name. And now nobody on her team knows how to tell her that the one match she has spent 2 years trying not to think about just landed in round 1, on the biggest stage in the sport, in front of 40,000 people who didn't come to watch a tennis match. They came to watch a reckoning. You're about to find out why this single first-round matchup at Wimbledon 2026 has tennis insiders calling it the most dangerous draw of the entire tournament. Why one former British number 1 says, "This is the player nobody wants to face right now," and why the last time these two women stood across a net from each other, the result was so quietly devastating that one of them buried it and never spoke about it publicly again. 2 years. That's how long it's been sitting there, untouched, unforgiven, and today, it comes due. Let's go back. August 2024, a modest tournament in North Carolina, the kind of event that barely registers outside the sport. Hard courts baking under a Carolina summer, no cameras chasing every step, no nation holding its breath. Just two players who, at that point, the tennis world hadn't quite decided what to make of yet. One of them was a teenager from the Philippines named Alex. She was talented. Everyone could see that. The hands, the timing, the fearlessness in how she struck the ball. But she was still raw. Still finding the version of herself that could survive when a match turned ugly. And on that particular afternoon, it turned ugly fast. She took the first set clean. 6-3. Dominant. The kind of start that makes an opponent's coach quietly start planning the post-match interview. And then something shifted. Not in Alex's game, in her composure. The opponent across the net, a fighter named Renata, started doing what gritty, experienced competitors do when their backs are against the wall. She stopped trying to win pretty and started trying to win, period. 6-4. Set 2 gone. And in the decider, the one set that actually tells you who a player really is under pressure, Alex cracked. 6-3. Match over. Renata walked off that court with a win that, on paper, looked like nothing. A first-round result at a low-tier event? The kind of scoreline that gets buried in a stats database and forgotten by everyone except the 2 people who were actually on the court. Except Alex never forgot it. Here's the thing about losses like that. The ones that don't cost you a title, don't cost you ranking points, don't even make a headline. Those are sometimes the ones that cut the deepest. Because there's no trophy to console you, no prize money to soften it, nothing except the long flight home and the quiet. Humiliating knowledge that you had a set in hand and you let it slip through your fingers against a player who simply wanted it more in that moment. People close to her camp say she watched the footage back. More than once. Not to relive the pain, to understand exactly where it went wrong. Where her footwork got tentative. Where her serve lost its conviction. Where the version of herself that shows up when things get hard simply didn't show up. So she built a different version. And for 2 years, that version has been quietly, relentlessly assembling itself match by match, tournament by tournament, almost entirely out of the mainstream spotlight, until this season, when it stopped being quiet. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't a story about one player's redemption arc in isolation. It's a story about 2 completely different trajectories that were always, somehow, going to collide again. While Alex was rebuilding herself into a different competitor, Renata's path went somewhere else entirely. Not backward exactly, but not forward either. She's a fighter, make no mistake. The kind of player who, on the right day, on the right surface, can manufacture a win out of nothing, the way she did in Carolina. But 2026 has not been her year. Her overall win rate is sitting at a modest 56.7%. She's converting barely over a third of her breakpoint chances, 37%, to be exact, which, if you know anything about tennis, tells you she's getting opportunities but she's not closing them. And in matches that hinge on 3 or 4 key moments, that's the difference between competing and surviving. She hasn't lifted a single WTA title this entire season. Her results have come in a stutter pattern. A win, then a loss, then another loss, then a flicker of form, then nothing again. And then there's the surface. Grass. The most unforgiving, least forgiving surface in the sport. The one that punishes hesitation and rewards players who can adapt to a ball that skids low and fast and refuses to sit up and wait for you. Renata's grass court record at WTA level reads 1 win, 5 losses for her career. Over the last 12 months specifically, 1 win, 4 losses. She is, by every measure that matters, not a grass court player. She has never been one. And now, of all the 400-plus possible opponents in this draw, the one waiting for her in round 1 is not just any grass court specialist, it's the most dangerous one in the entire tournament. Pause for a second and sit with that number because it matters more than it sounds like it should. A 40-plus ranking gap. Alex enters as world number 30, seeded 29 at the championships. Renata sits at 76. That's not a close match on paper. That's not even supposed to be competitive. And yet, and this is where the psychological weight of this match becomes almost unbearable if you're the one walking out to face her. Rankings don't account for history. They don't account for the fact that somewhere in Renata's head, there's a memory of a hard court in North Carolina where she beat this exact opponent, came back from a set down, and walked away the better player on the day. Rankings can't measure whether that memory is a source of confidence or a ticking psychological time bomb. Because here's the brutal truth nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes the players who've beaten you before are the most dangerous. Not because they're better than you now, but because some small, stubborn part of your brain still remembers losing to them. And sometimes that memory is exactly the kind of thing that makes a player overthink the one shot they should be hitting on instinct. But let's talk about what's actually been happening to Alex this season, because the scale of it is almost hard to comprehend if you haven't been tracking it closely. This isn't a promising young player having a nice run story. This is a player who has, in the span of a single grass court swing, become the most talked about name in the entire women's draw. Not just among her peers, not just among fans of women's tennis, but among an entire nation that has, by every account, started organizing its daily life around when her matches start. 9 wins, 4 losses across 4 grass court events this season. A WTA 125 title in Birmingham, a semi-final run at the WTA 500 level in Berlin, where she beat not 1 but 2 ranked opponents back-to-back, one of them a former world number 3. A round of 16 finish at Queen's Club, one of the most prestigious grass warm-up events on the calendar. And in between all of it, she found time to team up with Venus Williams. Yes, that Venus Williams for a doubles run in Hamburg. Which, if you think about what that means symbolically, is almost too perfect. A teenager who idolized the legends of the sport now sharing a court with one of them. Not as a fan, but as a peer. And then there was Birmingham. The final, the one people are still talking about. Down 5 games all in the deciding set. The kind of position where most players are already mentally drafting their press conference about how she fought hard but it wasn't her day. And instead, Alex found something. Pulled the match back from the edge and won it. Not survived it, won it. That's the moment, more than any ranking point or trophy, that seemed to convince the entire tennis world that something had genuinely changed in her. Because winning when you're playing well is one thing. Winning when you're one bad service game away from losing is something else entirely. That's not talent, that's identity. That's a player who has decided somewhere deep down that she does not lose matches like that anymore. And the numbers around her right now are almost surreal for a player who, 2 years ago, was just another junior trying to find her footing on tour. Nearly 500,000 ticket requests for matches across this grass season alone. The Birmingham final pulled in approximately 11 million simultaneous live viewers, a number that didn't just beat the previous record for a WTA event, it shattered it. The kind of audience figure usually reserved for major broadcast events, not a 125-level tournament final. Wimbledon's own tournament director didn't place her in this draw based on a gut feeling or sentiment. He looked at hard broadcast data, ticket demand analytics, commercial projections, the cold, unsentimental numbers that one of the most tradition-bound institutions in global sport relies on before making any major decision, And those numbers told him to expect her matches alone to bring in 40,000 fans through the gates. 40,000 people. For a first-round match. Let that sink in. Because first-round matches at Wimbledon do not, as a rule, command attention like that. Stars do, stories do, and right now Alex is both. So what is it exactly that's making her must-watch tennis right now? It's not one thing. It's a combination that's almost unfair to opponents on this particular surface. She's left-handed, and if you don't follow tennis, she's left-handed, and if you don't follow tennis, closely, you might not appreciate just how disproportionately dangerous that is on grass specifically. A left-handed slice serve doesn't behave like a normal serve. It doesn't come at you and sit there waiting to be hit. It slides. It curves away from a right-handed returner's body at the exact moment they're trying to set their feet, pulling them off the court entirely, opening up the rest of the court for a player who, by every account, is taking the ball earlier and more aggressively than she ever has before. A former British number one, a man who happens to also be left-handed himself, which means he's not speculating. He's speaking from lived experience inside that exact mechanical advantage, has openly said this season that she is, in his words, the player to watch on the entire women's side, not one of the players to watch. The player. He pointed specifically to Berlin, to that back-to-back run through two ranked opponents, and called it nothing short of spectacular. But here's what separates this story from 1,000 other rising star narratives. And it's the part that should genuinely give you chills if you understand what's actually riding on these matches for her. There's a tennis commentator, someone who's covered the sport long enough to know the difference between a player chasing a ranking point and a player chasing something bigger, who said something about Alex that stuck with people all season, that when she wins, it doesn't feel like a player has won a tennis match. It feels like she's won it for an entire country. Over 100 million people, watching, hoping, feeling every single point land or slip away with her. Most professional athletes will tell you that kind of pressure is a weight, a burden. The kind of thing that crushes promising careers before they ever fully bloom. For Alex, by every visible sign on a tennis court this season, it's the opposite. It's fuel. It's the reason her post-match reactions, the raw, unfiltered, almost overwhelmed emotion she shows the second the final point lands, have become must-watch moments in their own right, clipped and shared and replayed by people who've never picked up a racket in their life. Now bring all of that back to the locker room, back to round one, back to a player who beat her once, on a hard court, 2 years ago, in front of nobody, and has spent every day since wondering, somewhere in the back of her mind, whether she'd ever get the chance to do it again, and whether, if she did, the version of Alex she'd be facing would still be the one she remembers. She won't be. Everyone who has watched this season unfold knows she won't be. The surface alone tips this overwhelmingly in one direction. Grass is, statistically and historically, the worst possible stage for Renata to try to repeat what she did in Carolina. The ranking gap, the recent form, the lack of a single title all season, the crumbling breakpoint conversion numbers, none of it points toward an upset. And the player she's facing isn't just better now. She's playing with a level of conviction, aggression, and surface-specific comfort that simply did not exist in her game 2 years ago. The slice serve that slides away, the early aggressive returns, the composure under set point pressure that Birmingham just proved beyond any doubt. Every single piece of evidence says this should not be close. And yet, and this is the part that should keep you watching when this match actually starts, tennis has a long, well-documented history of humbling absolute certainty. Of players who shouldn't win, finding one good day, one hot streak of returns, one moment where an opponent's nerves catch up with the weight of the occasion rather than the difficulty of the tennis. 40,000 fans is an extraordinary number of people to perform in front of for the very first time on this stage. A nation of 100 million watching is an extraordinary amount of pressure to carry onto a court, even for a player who has, so far, turned that pressure into rocket fuel rather than dead weight. Nobody, not the ranking system, not the analysts, not the former British number one who called her the player to watch, can promise you with absolute certainty what happens when these two players actually step onto that court and the first ball is struck in anger. What we do know is this: 2 years ago, in a tournament nobody was watching, on a surface that didn't matter, two players who hadn't yet become who they were going to become walked off that court with 1 win and 1 loss, and only one of them carried it forward as unfinished business. Today, on the most famous tennis court on the planet, in front of 40,000 people and a broadcast audience that could dwarf even Birmingham's record, that business finally gets settled, one way or another. The story has already been written by everyone watching from the outside. The form, the surface, the momentum, the numbers. They all point in the same direction, toward the same outcome, toward Alex finally closing the door on the one result from her past that never stopped following her around. But matches aren't decided by narratives. They're decided by what happens point by point, game by game. When the crowd noise fades into the background, and it's just 2 players and a tennis ball and 2 years of history sitting on every single shot, all that's left now is for her to walk through that tunnel, step onto that court, and find out if the story everyone's already written turns out to be the one that actually gets played.